RC and on 4607 Becker, and
Hi, I'm Emmett. I'm a member of 4607. I'm a part of our strategy department. I was our human player this past year, and this is my second year in FRC. Today we're going to be going over strategic design, game breakdown, trade-offs, scouting, pre-scouting, mass scouting, alliance selection, competing at an event, planning a match, post-match, and playoffs.
Okay, so strategic design is designing or breaking down the game and finding out how you want to play it to the best of your capabilities. And that decides how you want to design your robot and what you want to focus on in the game. And then it also helps you to figure out what are the most important pieces in the game and what you can do, also what you need versus what you actually want, or what you want versus what you actually need in your robot, and some things you need to get done or you need to do in the game to be able to actually compete at a competitive level, while others you just want, and hopefully you can get them, but if you don't have the bandwidth to do it, it's okay.
For game breakdown, on our team we read the game manual on the day of kickoff in order to understand the game for the year. This includes all ways to score points, how to seed high with rank points, and any interesting fouls or disallowed ways to play the game, including new fouls each year and knowing the robot parameters that are allowed.
So, yeah, you can. Okay.
Once you have an understanding of the game, it's time to make some decisions about how your team will play the game. These aren't necessarily final decisions of what your robot will do or how you will build it, but they are more of a priority of what your team will do with the robot. You always need to play at least one aspect of the game and evaluate what type of team you are. Once you have an idea of what your team can do, you need to check your priorities by seeing what a typical match strategy looks like to see if that sounds like a winning strategy. It's also important to remember scoring 10 points is the same as preventing 10 points.
So for auto, you need to make sure that you make decisions that makes your robot competitive during auto, because auto is a very important part of a match because it's the first second and it can judge if you can have a good head start in the match, and that momentum can really bring you to win a match. And with autos, you want to make sure that you have at least one basic auto on each side that works. Just you want something that will move. Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Two
on each side. That actually work, and then after that you can build upon that and make more complicated autos to score you more points. But you want to make sure that you have at least two that work on each side. And then after that you can add on and make them more complicated. And make sure that you know what the field layout is and make sure that you have it correct, and obviously have the right side, the right auto for the right side. And then after that you can also work on things like vision and field orientation to help make your autos more robust, or not robust, but better. Yeah.
Endgame. The endgame is usually a key aspect of the game, whether it's a lot of points or an extra ranking point. Last year we went to week 1 in Duluth and we didn't get the climb working in time for the event, and it likely had an effect on the viability of our robot for being a high captain or being a high pick. later in the season with a climb, we were a second captain finalist, a first pick of Alliance 2, then first pick of Alliance 4 at Worlds, and then first pick of Alliance 2 at the state. The end game is typically very highly valued and can be difficult.
Okay, you want to make sure to play the end game and the auto first, and then in tele-op you can work from there.
Also, you don't have to build your robot around it. It doesn't have to be your sole focus, but it's a very important aspect.
So you want your first priority is that you want a robot to move, and then you need to be able to play a role in your alliance and contribute some points in your alliance. And that can look different for different teams, but just making sure to play at least one game piece and contribute to your alliances and quals in some way. And
Or playing defense. Your number 2 priority should be to be able to acquire and release a game piece. This is important because to get to your third priority, it's only a small change of being able to score. Trade-offs are a huge component of robot design, whether it is where to use your weight budget, choosing gear ratios, or the type of drivetrain you use. All of these decisions can have major effects on the capabilities and efficiency of your robot. If you have 10 available skill points, it is typically better to be a 10 at one specific skill than a 5 out of 10 at 2 skills.
yeah, so it's a lot, especially in like if you get to Worlds and and during regionals, it's very important, especially in during alliance selection. Top captains will look for teams that are really good at like one specific part of the game, and then so that they can build their alliance so that it will score they'll have different parts that work together to score as many points as possible.
All right. Are there any questions before we move on? You have to think for pre-regional scouting, you have to think about what teams are going to regionals and what level threat they are to you. You have to consider other teams' competitive history and reputation. A large part of our team is that we pre-scout teams and that are going to the same competitions as us, so we have data to know capabilities for qualification matches. I personally watch a lot of film to get a basic knowledge of how they play and what they're best at, despite if we have scouting data, because data is just numbers and you need to have a visual of how people work. For our scouting apps, first, what do you think is the most important data to have to make a pick list? Quantitative? Usually it consists of having multiple autos, an endgame, very few breakdowns, and being able to score efficiently. It's very important to make your app easy to use for scouters. So trying to use quantitative counters for cycles or scoring, and then yes or no input for things such as breakdowns, endgame capability, and auto leave. It's important to scout autos to find what combination of your alliance's autos mesh together best, therefore scoring the most points. This is especially important for alliance selection and playoffs.
Yeah, you want to make sure to make your scouting app very easy to use and simple, so that even if you have scouters that are only trained in a little bit, they can figure out how it works and make sure you have good data. And qualitative data is much easier to actually analyze and get real input out of for picking. So mostly you want qualitative data, but quantitative, sorry. But qualitative data can be useful in certain situations, but it's much easier to interpret and analyze quantitative data.
For regional scouting, a key thing to do is train your scouters in on practice day to ensure that your team gets accurate data during qualifications. It's important to have 12 to 15 scouters to ensure that your scouters get breaks and they don't burn out. Joe.
Oh, hey, I got a question. So, if I'm on a team that has less than 12 to 15 people, how would I be able to do that?
You can get in contact with other teams going to your regional and ask them if they would like to share scouting data in exchange for having a few of their team members come scout for you.
Yeah, and when you do that, you want to make sure that they know how to use your scouting, or if you have a scouting app, make sure everybody knows how to use your scouting app. Otherwise, you could get bad data, which is very not good.
Make sure that every day that you're at a competition to have charged scouting tablets or iPads, and to prioritize getting spots in the stands specifically so your scouters have a clear view of the field. Also make sure to appreciate your scouters. We do this by, depending on what year and what leader we have for our scouting department, we will either have a point system or a vote from select team members to determine the best scouter of the competition, who is then given a reward or an award from our lead. If you don't have any of the capabilities to scout at a regional, just not enough people, or you don't have a scouting app, you can always ask other teams. The worst they can say is no. For match planning, when you make a match strategy, take the time to make sure everyone is comfortable with the plan so that all teams are sure of what they're doing and are comfortable with it. And they don't just go off doing their own thing. When you're in those meetings, even if you're in control of the match strategy, don't just tell other teams exactly what they're doing. Still have a conversation with them to see how you can improve, because they might just have a better idea, or they might have some new ways to score that you didn't know about. Make sure to make a backup plan in case there's defense or a breakdown. At some higher levels, begin to plan out what people are going to start working towards directly after auto to make sure that no time is wasted. Your number one priority during qualification matches should always be to win or to get ranking points, and second priority should be to showcase what you have to prove yourself as a more viable pick for higher captains.
Yeah, and after the match, it's important to have someone like the technician or whoever's available to bring the robot back to the pit and deal with all of any issues you have with the robot or any mechanical failures or anything like that. And you want to have a debriefing with your drive team, going over what went well in that match and what didn't quite go as planned and could have gone better. And if there's any discrepancies, make sure to go back and watch match videos and to finalize the match and figure out exactly what happened, why it happened, and how you can improve on in future matches. You want to always be evaluating your team's priorities for each match and being aware of what your goal is, and like be aware of like the full competition and all of the rankings and stuff to make sure you're going for what you actually need in a match.
For alliance selection, you should have your list updated and ready when you go to alliance selection or send your representative down. Have at least 28 teams selected in order of your scouting data, and then as they're picked, cross them off. Make sure to advocate for your team. A big thing we've missed out on doing is that you should go to those top teams to advocate for your team on why you're a viable choice. And make sure to just talk to other teams whenever you get the chance.
Yeah, making connections and advocating for yourself can be very important in getting picked high up. So in playoffs, if you have the extra resources, make sure if you have a lot of resources, like we do, and make sure to help out your teammates and share spare parts or resources, and make sure that everything's running smoothly with them. Just help them out whenever available in alliance or after alliance selection during playoffs, because it can just having the extra help can be helpful in spare parts. Yeah, you can help by providing tools, an extra helping hand, or even what we do a lot is we help with batteries a lot. Make sure to test batteries and help out and give them another team in our alliance batteries if they need it. And if you're the captain of your alliance, make sure to keep an eye on the time and to turn in the necessary tickets on time so that you don't have any mistakes in your teams in the matches.
One really important thing is to get your drive team members and pit team to know your alliance partners really well to increase your alliance synergy. You want to continually reevaluate your match strategy to find ways to improve alliance strategy during playoffs. And remember that good strategy beats better alliances when better alliances don't have good strategy.
Any questions? Okay, then what do you guys all do for strategy on your team, and like how do you do anything like scouting or match strategy or anything?
We also do something what we call pre-scouting, but it's different from what you guys call pre-scouting. We have people in the stands watching the robots that we're going to be going up against and with for future matches, so that they can report that to our coach.
Yeah, knowing teams' capabilities and what they have done in the past is very important for knowing what you're going up against and who you're playing with.
Also, having your scouting app so you can have live updates into a Google Doc or something, so you have a live data sheet for your next matches, like you guys do, is pretty important.
Any other teams willing to share what they do for scouting or strategy?
We coded an app where basically we track what robots do in the competition, like on the field. We'll hit buttons that correspond to the actual field and where they go. So we can track the moves they made, where they scored, when they broke down, all that stuff. And then that gets saved and we can track the paths they take and where they stole most often.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes with data that's like that where you're tracking like actual like paths and stuff, it's hard to interpret it, but it's nice to have that when you're actually if you're looking at that team specifically during like line selections, it's nice to know what they do and where they do it, how they do it, so that you know what works best with your robot and if you your other alliance partners.
So, did everyone have that 24 with auto
Yeah.
placement?
So like in for our scouting app, we make sure to have like the start position of the other robots on our alliance. We make sure to record down their start position during auto so that we know where they like to have their robot during auto to see if it like works well with us. And then also during state in 2024, we also recorded all the auto paths of all the robots to better pick during line selections a robot that had a path that didn't interfere with ours or our alliance partners, which
Our start positions, what we did with it, or it's just.
I don't know.
How do you guys run your strategy meeting?
You're talking about match strategy?
No, like,
Or-
when you talk about like alliance selection stuff with your team.
A pick room.
It's usually a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Usually it's, there's a.
Usually we all meet in some
Usually.
sort of room and we have
include, usually it's drive team, pit crew, and a few select scouters.
and then we go through the data that we collected and we run the program, make sure that all the data is analyzed. We run a script to turn all our raw data into usable numbers in a usable list. That basically goes off of the points scored in auto by a team, points scored in tele-up, and points scored in endgame, and then some other select information that depends on the game for the year. And then we go through and we look at the teams that we want to pick based off of what type of robot we will want for a first pick or second pick, and like what we want from them. And then also we'll look through the matches. A lot of times once we have some teams that we're looking at, we'll go through all of the matches in a day by a team and see if they had any breakdowns, because it's so important just to have a teammate that will actually move and not break down. Because if they break down, that's hurting us tremendously in a match. So we always try and make sure that our teams have minimal, if any, breakdowns that we pick. And then we just basically just put it down on a list, like what teams we would want to pick as like in a ranking, just a list up to the teams that we think might be picked. Got anything to add?
Well, we go up to like, probably like a top 15 in our range, would probably get picked by the top 8 teams. So we're just eliminating those to, try and get an idea of who will be left over for second pick as well.
And then we just pick a wide range of like 16 teams or whatever for second picks, or 20 teams for second picks and just look at them individually, or not individually, but make sure they don't have any breakdowns and just judge if they'd work well with our team.
Top 14 for first pick and then top 14 for second.
Probably, I don't know. Yeah. You can say that louder if you want.
No.
Okay. What? Yeah.